Welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, the only show right now on Indian television where you, the MSME, get center stage to voice your opinions and thoughts. This is ETNA's special daily initiative to give MSMEs and entrepreneurs the opportunity to be front and center in every industry and area that matters to you. Tonight, we're bringing you a special interview with the Leadership Management International. I caught up with Master Licensee Hiru Bijlani as well as others to give you a 360-degree view on leadership and why it is so crucial for entrepreneurs. Take a look at this interview I did earlier. Dr. Bijlani, thank you very much for being with us here tonight to talk about leadership, how leadership is evolving in India, and what the viewers of our show should know about leadership and why it is so important for every company, no matter what the size of the business is. But before we get to that, let me start by asking you to talk about your own journey. Where did the idea of the Leadership Management International come about? What led to you joining that? What the journey has been?
I explored firms around the world. I first thought, should I reinvent the wheel and do it myself? And then I said, no point. So I looked at many companies as to which company I could tie up with to bring real, meaningful leadership training to India. And that led me to Leadership Management International India. That made me come and do a tie-up with them and bring LMI to India. Now, why did I pick them? Because of all the companies, the value proposition of this company was not just churning out training programs, but building long-term relationships with companies and helping them achieve real, tangible results through a comprehensive process.
Okay, fair enough. Let me pick up on a few things you've said, and I want to talk about some of the questions we get here on the Leaders of Tomorrow. We have a call-in show twice a week, and a lot of the questions that come to us around the field of hiring, HR, etc., is that companies and businesses tell us, we hire people, we put in a lot of money training them for a couple of months. They stay with us for a few months, then they get a better opportunity somewhere else and they leave. And one thing that an expert said to me sort of has really stuck in my mind. He said, employees don't leave bad companies, they lead bad managers. So that brings me back really to the role of a good manager for a company. What are some of the qualities you think is essential for a leader to have? If the leader doesn't have those skills, what would you advise? Do they go through a training course, or do they hire people who have those skill sets then maybe?
Okay. The first thing, and I've been asked this question often, in the modern time, especially with the world that's rapidly changing and moving at a breakneck speed with regulations, circumstances, etc. The first thing is that leadership is both an art and a science, which means you have to use both sides of your brain, the creative side and the logical side. Traditionally, managers and leaders have used only the logical side and been drivers. Because the world is changing, because behavioral science research shows increasingly that people have to be dealt with differently. And that's why they quit organizations, because they leave, as you rightly said, managers and leaders. They do not lead companies. So managers have to understand that how they deal with their people has to be different from what it was, let's say, 50 years ago.
Okay, let me come back to the question that I asked you in terms of what in your mind, what would you advise for the viewers of our show are the top 4 or 5 qualities, say, that a leader must possess?
Well, the first thing, as I said, is a leader must not only be logical, must also be emotional and must use the heart and the head both in his leadership style in the organization. The second thing a leader must do is, which a lot of leaders do have, is he must have a clarity of vision, which he must be focused on and must drive towards it with a passion. Sure. Now, many people do that, but they falter because they don't build their teams to buy into that vision and passion. And so they fall apart, or they have problems, they have challenges, and then they themselves quit sometimes. Because really it's because of the failure of teams. The third thing is that the leaders must nurture and develop teams. Develop their people, build relationships, and train people. And that is absolutely important. And what is also important is that the culture of an organization should be a learning culture. Leaders are readers. Leaders should learn. They must connect not just with people within the organizations or their own industry, but a diverse sector, so that they get a broad-based understanding of the environment and circumstances. They should meet with artists, scientists, teachers, doctors, So they're not just stuck in their own environment of an industry.
Okay. On the flip side, I understand you've been associated with LMI for about 20 years now, 2 decades. What are some of the most common mistakes you see leaders making?
The most common mistakes leaders make is that they have a very short-term view in India. And I often tell leaders that they should take a long-term view, because while they're saying they have a vision to grow to this level, they are actually working as if there is only the current quarter to work for. Now, obviously, they have to deliver results in the current situation for their shareholders and be conscious of what the stock market says. But nonetheless, they should be acting on the short term with a view to the long term.
Okay.
So that is a very important thing that leaders of today must focus on. They must also constantly be connecting to find out what changes are taking place. The environment is changing, and so many developments that are happening around make it difficult to keep track. So leaders should look outside the box. They should think of ways outside the box of building their businesses and not just be trapped in their specific box in which they do work. And carry their teams and work together as they go along.
Okay. Speaking of out of the box, what role, and I do know that you said that salary is not as important perhaps as the kind of leadership skills that you have, but what role does the monetary aspect play? What role does compensation, perks, having a flexible working style, what role does that play when it comes to the overall organization?
Flexible working style is very important.
Okay.
And very desirable, and people love that. In terms of the compensation, most people actually weigh the overall package that they get in a company, not in terms just the monetary package or perks, but the work environment, the freedom and flexibility and ability to grow. So people want to grow. They want to look as to where they can go next, not only hierarchically within the organization, but what are they learning that is going to make them able to do things on their own, for instance. So they want to learn much more of the business, of the organization, and build relationships. So people have to get opportunities to grow and be themselves.
Okay. One hears a lot about culture when it comes to any organization. How do you define culture in an organization? And also, how can managers and leaders ensure that culture is not just something that is top down, that's being enforced by the leaders, but it's also bottom up?
Yes. Traditionally there was a theory X and theory Y style of management. Theory X was top-down driver, results focus, not focus on people. Theory Y was people focused. You actually need to combine the two optimally to get results. But I would say that what is veering these days is moving towards more being people oriented. And the bottoms up happens when you devolve authority along with responsibility. You don't just give people responsibility, but you also give them authority to be free and flexible. And that enables to build a culture of people working together as teams and working well.
I have a slightly more basic question, in fact, speaking of culture. How do you define the culture of the organization? How do you decide that this should be what my organization stands for?
The culture of an organization is a function of how happy people are.
Okay.
If people are happy in the organization and there is low attrition and they are encouraging others to join them, they are bringing people to come and work in the company that they work in.
Okay.
It shows that the organization has a very positive culture and a culture that can grow and build itself in the future, especially if it's a young new organization or an SME.
I want to talk about training at this point of the interview.
Yes.
Is there enough understanding in India Inc. about the importance of training? Do you see enough companies doing it? And do you see enough small businesses really understanding the importance of training?
Actually, yes and no. It's only recently that companies are beginning to understand the importance and need for training. The older companies have had that culture, but they're again set in stone based on what they have globally or in large organizations. Smaller companies are actually groping and struggling to find help in whatever way they can. And there is very little of offerings out there in the marketplace because most quick fix seminars and programs do not deliver measurable results. You get some ideas, you get something, and they don't get results. So most of our clients are there and continue to be with us for many, many years is because we work on a long-term basis with companies. We help them define their vision and work with them in long relationships where we help them achieve their goals and vision rather than quick fix solutions. But there are not many people who do that because the research about how this is done, the behavioral science research does not exist in most people, in most companies outside. So really what is needed is that you need to work closely with companies, especially the SMEs, who need it, and then work to make them successful rather than doing a quick fix seminar.
Okay.
And they therefore get frustrated and are disappointed. And they definitely are struggling for that. And we are fortunate that we are in the right place at the right time, and we see
Sure.
a lot of opportunity for us because people are beginning to realize, based on the work we've done so far, that that there is great opportunity for them if they work with us. But this is really a major challenge for SMEs.
Time for a break. On the other side, we'll continue the special focus on leadership. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow, and tonight we're putting the spotlight on leadership with a special focus on Leadership Management International. I did this conversation earlier. Take a look. So through this interview, for SMEs who might want to know why should they spend money and resources, both of which are limited for a small business, on training of their employees, the one thing that you'd have to say to them?
You have no choice.
You either train them or you end up losing
Perish.
out on employees
Or
in the long
perish.
run. Okay.
Pay more, high attrition, poor results. In the present environment, you have no choice. When I say, well, you're in new job, I'm saying, what are the circumstances? You're not in a protected environment. You have rapid changing environment. You have competition. You have government. Everything's moving fast. So you only way you can survive and grow and progress is develop your people through training, mentoring, both internal and external. You should develop mentoring capabilities in-house, besides getting organizations from outside to come and mentor people.
Okay. So you're saying it's a rapidly changing environment.
Yes.
And I want to talk about how technology is disrupting the world that most businesses live in today. And that's especially true for leaders who have to learn to adapt to this changing world. What's your advice for them?
Absolutely right. And therefore, it is critical to be constantly scanning the environment and keeping up to date on knowing what changes are taking place in the environment and trying to figure out how those changes, howsoever remote they seem, will affect their companies. Because suddenly you don't know what's going to hit you. You know, I recently read that the petroleum and car industries are going to be out of business in 30 years based on research carried out by a Stanford professor. So now how is that going to affect other businesses? Is what you're going to get ahead of. So be aware of the environment and learn as much as you can, as fast as you can. And don't be stuck in where you are.
How much of what's happening globally should influence an Indian business leaders, leadership style?
Well, I think it is an evolving thing, and I don't think you can say that it should influence Indian businesses dramatically. But you have to learn from what is happening in different environments and cultures. And as I said, it's very diverse. So I think we could learn a lot both from the West and the East in cultural styles. We are somewhere in between.
Okay. So how often do you do these programs for a particular organization? How often does a manager who's, learned about a business process, learned about leadership styles, etc., need to then constantly keep updating himself or herself?
See, our process is not a quick one-day seminar because seminars don't work. As we say, they are transactional. The retention application of a seminar of 1 or 2 days is maximum 2 to 5% over after 5 or 6 weeks.
Okay.
The research carried out by the American Society of Training and Development. So our programs based on research go through a long process. So we work with companies, find out what they want to achieve through a period of 3 to 6 months, work with them over long stretches, interact with them, define their goals, and then help them in sessions that we hold once a week or once a fortnight, progressively achieving results and making a transformation of behavior and attitude change, which is very difficult and a slow process. Therefore, we do not try to churn out a large number of participants through our training programs. We work closely with companies over long relationships, and some of these relationships run for decades. We've had companies who have been working with us for 20 years.
Okay.
And therefore, it's a long, slow process of ensuring measurable results and helping people develop not just their business goals, but also their personal goals.
Okay.
Because again, research shows that a person who lives a more balanced life is professionally more successful. So our programs take you through not just your professional life and professional goals, but also help you improve your personal life and achieve things that you've been frustrated and not able to do or not find time, enabling you to find that time to spend time with family, spend time with people that you want to do on your health. So really, we try to develop people holistically through our programs.
Dr. Bijlani, thank you very much for being with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. Parag, thanks very much for speaking with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. So you're someone who took the course many, many years ago, 14 years ago?
Yes, 14 years ago.
What's, okay, even before I get to, what has been the benefit of that, maybe you can talk to our viewers about why you decided so many years ago to take the course, how you went about doing it, and one of the biggest reasons why you decided that probably this was the course for you.
As you know, when we started, we were very small. When we started this, we were the company of only 30 people, and we want to achieve some heights. So understanding from the people around, we came to know that we should be, as if I come to know, I am a common BCom graduate, but you need to have a specialization. That's what we understood. So instead of going to MBAs and that, we have heard of this Leadership Management International. So I took up that course and try to understand what the benefits are.
Okay. I want to understand from you, a lot of small businesses tell us that because they are so small, your SMEs, MSMEs, etc., because they are so small, they don't have the financial resources or the people resources to spare for things like leadership training, for things like having a defined HR policy in place. To all those people, what would you have to say?
To those people, I like to recommend that this is the basic they need to do, because what happens, as we started small, we used to do each and everything on our own. Like if you see, everything is been organized, but you yourself handle finance, you handle production, you handle sales, you've been a part of everything. But then when we understood the LMI, when we did the course, we came to know how to segregate the goals, basically goals, and understand, and then we can delegate. It also improved our communication, way of communicating the people. Generally, what happened is we used to tell the people, ye kar dena, wo kar dena. But when it comes to the end, we also forget. But now with this people and how the tool they give us, like writing it and short-term goals, mid-term goals, so we're able to write the goals again, check it again, evaluate again. So we came to know how the progress goes. Initially, we used to do as a small time, but आज बात कर लिया फिर भूल गए. So this helps us.
Okay, so in 14 years, you become the CEO of your company. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
But what is one of the biggest benefits you would say that going through a leadership program, whether it's LMI or anything else, what's the biggest benefit that you've seen from that?
You say biggest is not a one. There are several, because LMI teaches us all the 6 areas of the life. So if you say as far as organizational benefit first, my organization is being benefited in several areas where you're able to achieve and more productivity in the different areas, if you say, to our peers. If you say my employees, I've been doing this program with my employees also. So they are able to realize their goals, fulfill their dreams, and that's how we are able to retain them for a long time.
Parag, thank you very much for being with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. Dr. Rao, thank you very much for being with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. Let me start by talking to you about why you decided, to take the licensee for LMI, what the journey has been like for you.
Journey has been fine, and I belong to the medical fraternity. I was a practicing physician, and I thought I need to realize my full potential. That's it. That's why I took up the LMI franchise.
What was the shift like going from being in the medical profession to running a leadership training program?
Absolutely soul satisfying. I think Leadership Management International has helped me, not only me, my family and my participants to realize their full potential.
How many years has it been now?
I've been 2 decades now.
Okay. So what, in your opinion then, are some of the biggest changes that small businesses, companies can see by having a formal leadership program which is put in place at the company?
Simple. They manage their goals, time and people better or excellently. And most important, our LMI programs are facilitated in such a fashion to give people immediate results, measurable results of long-standing nature. And over and above, the concept of being a total person, managing all 6 areas of life, tells people that you can realize your full potential when you are successful in all areas of life.
Okay.
And the highlight is measurable results, absolutely. After every week where we conduct our sessions, we get back to the owners or the HR managers to tell them what victories we have had over the past 1 week.
Given that so much of our learning is happening online, how can courses like yours and how are programs like yours incorporating what's happening online with traditional teaching methods?
Traditional teaching method online can be used combined together. There are certain aspects of a program which can be done online. We need to develop a fair degree of credibility, trust, rapport with our participants and do some hand-holding in setting their goals or whatever challenges they have. So exclusively, I would believe we can use both the technology, you can do the traditional training plus online training also.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming down and speaking with us. Completely out of time on this episode of Leaders of Tomorrow. If you have any feedback for us on this show or you want to be featured on Leaders of Tomorrow, write in at leadersoftomorrowtimesgroup.com. Tweet at us at Sunanda_J or LOT_ET now or our Facebook page, Leaders of Tomorrow on ET now. You can also call us on that number you see on your screen. We love hearing from you. Thanks very much for watching. Have a good night.